Number 1. Excessive flattery. Let's talk about flattery, specifically the kind that doesn't just feel good but feels too good. You know what I mean. Someone showers you with compliments, and it's not just one or two nice things, it's an endless waterfall of praise. At first, it might feel amazing. Who doesn't like being told they're awesome? But if you start to feel like the compliments are coming in hot and heavy, like they've turned on a fire hose of admiration, it might be time to step back and question what's really going on. Here's the thing about excessive flattery, it's often more about the flatterer than the flattered. When someone goes overboard with praise, they're usually not just being kind. They might be trying to manipulate you, soften you up, or get on your good side for reasons that have nothing to do with genuine admiration. Think of it like a sugar rush, sweet in the moment but not exactly nourishing. The tricky part is spotting it, right? Because flattery can be so sneaky. Sometimes it's blatant, like when someone gushes over your every word or decision. But other times, it's more subtle, wrapped up in casual remarks that seem harmless on the surface. You're just so smart, I don't know how you do it, or wow, I've never met anyone as talented as you. Sure, those statements might be true, but when they're repeated too often or seem out of proportion to the situation, your inner radar should start buzzing. And let's talk about the feeling it gives you. Excessive flattery can leave you with this strange mix of emotions. At first, it might feel good, your ego gets a little boost, but then there's this underlying awkwardness. It's like eating a dessert that's too sweet, it stops being enjoyable after a while. That's your intuition whispering, something's not adding up here. Now, why do people do this? Sometimes it's insecurity. They might think flattery is the only way to win your approval. Other times, it's more calculated, like they're trying to butter you up to get something in return. Maybe they're angling for a favor, trying to cover up their mistakes, or just seeking to control how you perceive them. Whatever the reason, it's not about you, it's about their agenda. So, how do you deal with it? First, listen to your gut. If the compliments feel over the top or unearned, don't ignore that uneasy feeling. Next, test the waters. Shift the focus back to them and see how they react. People who use flattery as a tool often struggle when the spotlight isn't on you. And lastly, don't let it cloud your judgment. Just because someone says you're amazing doesn't mean you owe them anything. Flattery, in moderation, is nice. It's like seasoning, it enhances things when used sparingly. But when it's overdone, it stops being genuine and starts feeling fake. And no one needs that kind of artificial sweetness in their life. Stay sharp, stay grounded, and don't let excessive flattery pull the wool over your eyes. Number 2. Inconsistent behavior. Let's talk about inconsistent behavior, that tricky little giveaway when someone's actions just don't line up with their words. It's like trying to piece together a puzzle where none of the pieces seem to fit. One moment, they're all sunshine and smiles, showering you with praise or warmth, and the next, they're distant, cold, or even indifferent. It leaves you scratching your head, wondering, what just happened? Did I do something wrong? Spoiler alert, it's probably not you, it's them. When people are being fake, their behavior tends to swing like a pendulum. They'll say one thing but do the complete opposite, or they'll act friendly in one setting and turn aloof the minute the context changes. Maybe when they're with you, they're overly complimentary, but in a group, they barely acknowledge your presence. That kind of inconsistency can feel jarring because humans naturally crave congruence in their relationships. We want to believe that what someone shows us is authentic. When it's not, we sense it, even if we can't always articulate it. Here's the thing, people who aren't genuine struggle to maintain consistency because they're not rooted in truth. Their facade is a performance, and performances are exhausting to sustain. Eventually, cracks show. It's like watching someone try to balance too many plates in the air. Sooner or later, a plate is going to drop. And when it does, you start to see glimpses of their true intentions. Maybe they're hiding insecurity, trying to manipulate you, or simply putting on an act because they think it's what you want to see. Whatever the case, their inconsistency is a sign that their connection with you isn't built on something real. What makes this so hard to deal with is how confusing it can be. One day, they're your biggest fan, and the next, they're distant or even dismissive. It messes with your perception and can make you second-guess yourself. But here's a tip: trust your gut. If their behavior feels off or doesn't match what they're saying, don't ignore that little voice in your head. It's trying to tell you something. And let's not forget, consistent behavior is the bedrock of trust. When someone shows up the same way over time, it builds a sense of safety and reliability. Inconsistency, on the other hand, creates unease. It's like trying to walk on shifting sand. You never quite know where you stand. Genuine people don't leave you questioning. They're steady. Predictable in a good way. So, when you notice someone acting one way today and a completely different way tomorrow, take a step back. Don't rush to justify their behavior or give them the benefit of the doubt right away. Observe. Patterns don't lie, and over time, you'll see whether their actions align with their words, or if they're just playing a part. And remember, it's not your job to fix or figure them out. Stay grounded in your truth, and let their inconsistency speak for itself. Number 3, talking behind your back. Let's be real, this one stings. Few things feel as gut-wrenching as realizing that someone who smiles to your face is running their mouth behind your back. It's like they're wearing a mask, pretending to be all buddy-buddy while sharpening their knives in private. And the worst part? You might not even know it's happening until someone lets it slip, or you notice the strange way others start treating you. Yeah, it's messy. Here's the thing, when someone is talking about you behind your back, it's often less about you and more about them. They're projecting their insecurities, seeking validation from others, or just trying to stir the pot for their own entertainment. It's not flattering, but it's pretty common. Why? Because gossip gives people a weird kind of power. It makes them feel in the know, like they've got the inside scoop. But let's be clear, this doesn't make them smart or strong. It just makes them small. How do you spot it, though? Sometimes it's subtle. Maybe someone who used to be warm and engaging suddenly becomes distant, avoiding eye contact or giving you those tight, forced smiles that scream, "I know something you don't." Or maybe you hear whispers die out the second you walk into a room. That awkward silence? Yeah, that's a red flag. And then there are the accidental slips, where someone says, "Oh, I didn't mean to bring that up," but you know they totally did. So, what's the game plan when you suspect this is happening? First, don't lose your cool. It's easy to want to confront the person immediately or launch into defensive mode, but that often backfires. Instead, watch and listen. People who gossip tend to reveal themselves over time because they can't resist the urge to talk. Their need for attention is their Achilles heel. Let them dig their own grave, metaphorically speaking. Now, here's where Stoicism comes in. Marcus Aurelius, the great Roman emperor and philosopher, had this to say: "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Translation: you can't control what people say behind your back, but you can control how much it affects you. Focus on your actions, your integrity, your character. Let your life speak louder than their words. Also, don't be quick to cut people off at the first sign of shady behavior. Sometimes, what seems like gossip isn't malicious, it's just thoughtless. Humans are flawed, and we all slip up. But if the pattern is clear and the intent is harmful, then it's time to rethink that relationship. You don't need people in your life who bring toxic energy, even if they're pretending to be your biggest cheerleaders. At the end of the day, talking behind someone's back is a sign of weakness, not strength. It reflects poorly on the person doing it, not the one being talked about. So, if you ever find yourself the target of gossip, remember this: their words might sting, but they can't define you. You've got bigger things to focus on, like living a life so authentic and powerful that their pettiness becomes nothing more than background noise. Number 4, lack of genuine interest in your life. Ever had a conversation that felt more like a performance? Like you're on stage, talking about your life, your passions, your struggles, and the other person is just sitting there, nodding at the right moments, throwing in a wow or that's crazy here and there? On the surface, it might seem like they're listening. But if you dig a little deeper, something feels off. You start to notice that they're not really asking follow-up questions. They're not genuinely curious. They're just going through the motions. When someone is being fake with you, one of the biggest giveaways is their lack of interest in you. And I don't mean the superficial stuff, like what you had for lunch or your weekend plans. I'm talking about the things that make you tick. Your dreams. Your fears. The stuff that matters. If they never seem to dive below the surface, it's a red flag. Here's the thing: real interest comes with effort. It's when someone asks how you're doing and actually wants to know the answer. It's when they remember that thing you mentioned weeks ago and follow up about it later. Fake interest, on the other hand, is shallow. It's all about appearances. They might ask, "How are you?" but they don't really care. It's a checkbox, a social script they're following. And you can usually tell, because their eyes glaze over, or they're already steering the conversation back to themselves. Sometimes, this fake interest shows up in the way they handle your achievements or struggles. Let's say you're sharing something you're proud of, something that lights you up. If the other person brushes it off or gives you a generic "that's cool," it stings. And it's not about needing validation, it's about wanting a real connection. The same goes for tough times. If someone is quick to offer empty platitudes or change the subject when you open up, they're not showing real interest, they're just avoiding depth. Now, why do people act this way? It could be laziness. Genuine curiosity takes effort, and not everyone wants to invest that energy. Or maybe they're so wrapped up in their own world that they don't have the capacity to care about yours. In some cases, it's even intentional. They're keeping things shallow because they're not truly invested in the relationship. So, how do you deal with it? Start by noticing the patterns. Are they only present when it benefits them? Do they consistently avoid meaningful conversations? If so, you might need to reevaluate how much space they deserve in your life. You don't have to cut them off completely, but maybe stop pouring so much of your time and energy into a connection that isn't mutual. At the end of the day, genuine relationships are built on mutual care and curiosity. If someone isn't interested in knowing the real you, don't waste time bending over backward to make them care. Save your energy for people who lean in, who listen, who actually see you. Life's too short to settle for shallow connections. Number 5, only showing up when they need something. You know that person who only seems to pop into your life when they need something? Yeah, that's a red flag waving right in your face. It's the kind of behavior that leaves you feeling like a convenience rather than a connection. They'll hit you up with a cheerful "Hey, how's it going?" or "Long time no talk," but let's be real, you already know what's coming next. A favor. A request. A need. It's never just because they miss you or genuinely care about how you're doing. This type of interaction can feel pretty hollow because, deep down, you sense their ulterior motive. It's not about building a relationship, it's transactional. And, let's face it, that sucks. You might even find yourself questioning whether you're being too harsh or reading into things too much. But think about it, when someone only reaches out when they want something, their actions speak volumes. It's like they've got you on speed dial for emergencies, but when the storm clears, they disappear into the ether until the next time they need a hand. Now, Don't confuse this with someone going through a tough time. Everyone needs support now and then, and true friends will lean on each other in hard moments. But there's a huge difference between leaning and leeching. When someone's being fake, their neediness isn't reciprocal. You'll notice they're happy to take but rarely offer anything back. Whether it's emotional support, time, or energy, you'll end up feeling drained because the relationship is all give on your end and all take on theirs. Another clue? These interactions often come packaged with flattery or charm. Suddenly, they're super interested in your life or showering you with compliments. At first, it might feel good. Who doesn't like a little extra attention? But if you pay close attention, you'll see it's just a setup. They're buttering you up before they make their big ask. The moment they get what they came for, the compliments dry up, and they're gone faster than you can say, "Hey, what about me?" And let's not forget the guilt trips. If you don't immediately jump to help, they might pull out the "I thought we were close" card or make you feel bad for saying no. It's all part of the manipulation, an attempt to keep you in their orbit while they take. But relationships built on manipulation aren't relationships at all. They're just one-sided arrangements where you're left carrying the weight. So, how do you deal with this? First, recognize the pattern. If someone only shows up when they need something and disappears when the tables are turned, that's not friendship, it's freeloading. Set boundaries. It's okay to say no without feeling guilty. And remember, real connections aren't based on what you can do for someone. They're built on mutual care, respect, and effort. If someone can't show up for you the same way you show up for them, let them drift away. You're better off saving your energy for people who genuinely value your presence, not just your help. Number 6, forcing smiles or laughter. You know that weird, slightly uncomfortable feeling you get when someone laughs a little too hard at a joke that wasn't even that funny? Or when their smile looks like it was drawn on with a marker, stiff and awkward? That's the kind of fake energy we're talking about here. A forced smile or an over-the-top laugh isn't just a harmless quirk, it's often a dead giveaway that someone's not being real with you. Here's the deal, genuine emotions, whether it's a laugh, a smile, or even just a look of joy, are contagious. You can feel when they're real. They light up someone's face in a way that feels warm and effortless. But when it's fake, oh boy, it's like staring at bad acting in a soap opera. Their face might move the right way, but the eyes? The eyes always betray the truth. A forced smile doesn't reach the eyes, it just kind of hangs there, awkward and hollow. And then there's the laughter. Let's not even get started on that strained, over-the-top chuckle people give when they're trying too hard. It's like they're auditioning for a role they didn't prepare for. The laugh comes out a little too loud or at the wrong moment, and suddenly, you're left wondering, are they actually enjoying this, or are they just pretending to keep the peace? Why do people do this, though? Well, sometimes it's about trying to fit in. Maybe they feel pressure to seem polite, agreeable, or likable, and so they plaster on a fake grin to avoid rocking the boat. Other times, it's more manipulative. They're trying to mask how they really feel, whether that's disinterest, annoyance, or even disdain. Either way, it's not a great sign. Genuine connections aren't built on forced smiles and phony laughs. They're built on authenticity, even if that means awkward silence or admitting, "I didn't get the joke." Spotting this kind of fakery can be tricky, though. A forced smile or laugh might only last a second, but if you pay attention, it's pretty obvious. Maybe their expression drops the second they think no one's watching, or their laugh sounds so rehearsed it could win an award for most unnatural sound. Another clue? Timing. If someone is laughing a beat too late or smiling at something that wasn't even remotely smile-worthy, you've probably got yourself a faker. So, how do you deal with it? First, don't take it personally. Sometimes people fake a smile because they don't know how to handle the situation, not because they have something against you. That being said, if this becomes a pattern, if someone's always putting on this forced act around you, it might be worth taking a step back and asking yourself why. Are they uncomfortable being themselves with you? Are they trying to manipulate the situation? Or are they just not the kind of person who values honesty in relationships? Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, and other people's fake smiles? Totally out of your control. What you can do is stay true to yourself. Be real, even if it's a little messy or awkward. The people who matter, the ones who genuinely care about you, will appreciate your authenticity and reflect it back. And those who don't, well, let them keep practicing their fake grins. It's exhausting pretending all the time, and eventually, the mask always slips. Number 7. Avoiding deeper conversations. Have you ever tried to take a conversation beyond the surface level, only to feel like you're hitting an invisible wall? It's like you're throwing the ball, but they're just letting it drop instead of tossing it back. When someone avoids deeper conversations, it's one of the clearest signs they're not being authentic with you. It feels strange, doesn't it? Almost like they're keeping a part of themselves locked away, or maybe they're just not interested in exploring what's behind your words, either. Shallow talk can only go so far. It's the safe zone, light topics, quick laughs, and maybe a comment or two about the weather or your favorite show. And sure, that's fine for casual acquaintances or small talk at a party. But if someone who's supposed to matter in your life stays stuck there, never diving deeper, it can leave you feeling hollow. It's like trying to drink from an empty cup, unsatisfying and unfulfilling. What makes it so tricky to spot is how subtle it can be. They might laugh at your jokes, respond to your stories, and even seem engaged at first glance. But pay attention. Are they steering away from anything that feels real? Do they shut down or change the subject when emotions enter the picture? Maybe they keep things vague, never really offering personal insights or thoughts of their own. These are signs of someone who's not willing, or not able, to connect on a deeper level. Now, why does this happen? Sometimes it's about fear. Deep conversations can feel vulnerable, exposing parts of yourself that aren't polished or perfect. And let's face it, vulnerability isn't easy for everyone. For some people, it's downright terrifying. Other times, it's a lack of interest. They may not care enough to invest emotionally in you or the conversation. Ouch, right? But it's better to know than to keep pouring your energy into something one-sided. And then there's the performative side of it. Some people are masters of appearing engaged without ever truly being engaged. They'll throw in a comment here or there, just enough to keep the conversation flowing, but they're not actually there with you. It's like talking to someone who's physically present but emotionally checked out. Frustrating doesn't even begin to cover it. So, how do you handle this? Start by testing the waters. Share something a little deeper, an idea, a belief, or even just how you're really feeling that day. Watch how they respond. Do they engage? Or do they retreat to their comfort zone? If it's the latter, don't take it personally. It's not a reflection of your worth but of their capacity, or willingness, to connect. Here's the bottom line: real relationships thrive on depth. They grow when people are willing to explore the messy, complicated, meaningful parts of life together. If someone avoids those conversations, it might be time to ask yourself how much of your energy they really deserve. Because let's face it, life's too short for surface-level connections. Dive deep or move on. Number 8. Pretending to agree with everything you say. It's strange, isn't it? When someone acts like they're on your side about everything, no matter how outlandish or ridiculous your opinions might be. You say something, and it's like they've got a magic wand that makes them instantly agree with it. It feels a bit too perfect, too convenient. Almost like they're trying way too hard to fit in or make you feel good about yourself. That kind of behavior, when someone always nods along with everything you say, is often a big OL warning sign that they're not being real with you. At first, it might seem flattering. Who doesn't want someone who always agrees with their ideas? It feels like you've found a friend who gets you, right? But here's the thing, real relationships aren't built on endless affirmation. They're built on genuine exchange and sometimes even disagreement. In fact, healthy debates can open up doors to deeper understanding. But when someone just nods and smiles every time you speak, it's almost like they're more interested in keeping the peace than actually engaging with you. This kind of behavior screams inauthenticity. It's like they're trying to be the person they think you want them to be, instead of being themselves. They might think that agreeing with everything you say will make them more likable, or maybe they're too afraid to rock the boat. Either way, it's a sign that they're not comfortable expressing their true thoughts, and they're relying on shallow agreement to stay in your good books. One of the worst things about this is that it can leave you questioning your own judgment. If everyone around you is constantly telling you how amazing your ideas are, even when you know they might not be, it can make you feel invincible in your beliefs. But that's not real validation, it's just echoing. You're not getting feedback that helps you grow or see things from another perspective. You're just being fed a steady stream of yes men, or yes women, and that's a dangerous place to be. And let's be clear, there's a difference between someone being polite and someone being fake. It's one thing to nod and smile during a conversation, but it's another to never challenge a single thought you have. It's like they're hiding their true opinions behind a wall of yes, I totally agree with that, all the time. And eventually, you start to wonder, do they actually think anything for themselves? Here's the thing, if someone can't be honest with you about their thoughts, how can you trust anything else they say? Real friendship, real connection, is about the space to disagree, challenge each other, and grow together. If someone's constantly agreeing with you, it might be time to step back and ask, are they really with you? Or are they just along for the ride, pretending because they're too scared to be themselves? So, the next time someone is nodding along to everything you say, take a moment to dig deeper. Are they adding value to the conversation, or are they just echoing your thoughts back at you? Genuine people don't just agree for the sake of agreeing. They bring new perspectives, ask tough questions, and help you think critically. Anything less than that? It's probably just another form of fakeness you don't need in your life. Number 9. Competing instead of collaborating. You ever notice how some people act like every interaction is a battle? Like, they can't just enjoy a conversation, or work on a project, without turning it into some weird contest where the only goal is to come out on top. It's exhausting. Instead of collaborating, they're constantly measuring, comparing, and competing. It's as if they believe that for them to win, someone else has to lose. And let's be honest, that kind of energy can be downright draining. The thing about people who are all about competition over collaboration is that they're usually playing from a place of insecurity. They don't see life as a journey of growth, learning, and sharing. Instead, they see it as a series of games where there's always a winner and a loser. If you succeed, they feel like it somehow diminishes their own worth. If you make a mistake, they're there to jump on it like it's a golden opportunity to make themselves look better. It's a constant cycle of one-upmanship that never really leads anywhere meaningful. But here's the kicker, collaboration isn't just about working together to achieve a common goal, it's about lifting each other up, sharing ideas, and creating something bigger than what any one person could do alone. It's about the energy that flows between people when they're in sync, when everyone's contributing their unique strengths. When you're collaborating, there's no me versus you. There's only we. But with the competitive mindset, it's all about proving who's got the bigger idea, the better plan, or the smarter approach. Now, you might be thinking, but isn't a little competition good? Doesn't it push you to do better? Well, sure. A healthy sense of competition can fuel motivation and push people to reach higher, but that's not what we're talking about here. The kind of competition we're discussing is toxic. It's about constantly needing to be better than others, constantly measuring your worth by how you stack up against someone else. It's a hamster wheel that goes nowhere, leaving you feeling exhausted and unsatisfied. When you're in a situation where someone is competing instead of collaborating, it's easy to start questioning yourself. You might find yourself second-guessing your ideas, or feeling like your contributions aren't valued. That's exactly the kind of dynamic a competitive person thrives on. They want to knock you off balance so they can feel superior. But that's where the beauty of Stoic philosophy comes in. As Marcus Aurelius put it, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. Instead of getting caught up in their game, focus on what you can control: your actions, your mindset, and your response. Don't get sucked into their race. Instead, offer your ideas openly, listen to theirs, and find ways to work together. Collaborate, and watch how much more powerful the result becomes. Because collaboration isn't just about splitting up tasks, it's about combining strengths, respecting differences, and creating something richer than what any of you could have come up with on your own. Here's the thing: when you stop competing and start collaborating, you stop wasting energy on pointless comparison. You free yourself to grow without needing to be better than someone else. You're not in a race anymore, you're in a partnership. And that's where true success, fulfillment, and lasting relationships thrive. Number 10. Frequent lies or exaggerations. There's something unsettling about someone who lies constantly, especially when it's not even for any clear reason. It's not just the occasional white lie to spare feelings, but a pattern of stretching the truth, twisting reality, or making up stories out of thin air. And here's the thing: when you're on the receiving end of this, it's like being caught in a web of confusion. You start to wonder if anything they say is real, and that doubt? It starts to gnaw at you, making you question every word they speak. You've probably encountered someone who exaggerates every little thing about their life: how much they've accomplished, how wild their weekend was, or how many people they know. It's not just about boosting their image either. They do it so often that it almost becomes second nature. Over time, you can start to tell the difference between genuine enthusiasm and a stretch of the truth. Sure, embellishment is normal here and there. But when it happens repeatedly, it's like a red flag waving in the wind, signaling that something deeper is going on. It's not just the fabrications that get under your skin, it's the inconsistency. One minute they're telling you one thing, and the next, it's a completely different story. If you catch them in a lie and they get defensive, you know the game they're playing. They might try to cover it up, twist the narrative, or even act like you're the one who's mistaken. They'll try to convince you that you misunderstood, or worse, that you're overreacting. This backpedaling? It's a classic sign that they don't respect the truth, or you enough to be honest with you. But why do people lie like this? There's a mix of reasons. For some, it's insecurity. They feel like they have to inflate their reality to fit into a certain mold or impress others. For others, it's manipulation. They lie to control how people see them or to get something out of the relationship, whether it's admiration, sympathy, or even favors. The more they lie, the harder it becomes for them to keep track of what's true and what's not. But the deeper you get into the web, the more you start to see the cracks in their stories, and soon, it's hard to believe anything they say. Now, how do you deal with this? It's tempting to just call them out, but it's not always that simple. Sometimes, their lies are so deeply woven into their persona that confronting them head-on might only lead to more manipulation or gaslighting. Instead, you've got to stay grounded. Trust your instincts and don't let their words pull you into their distorted version of reality. Pay attention to patterns, how often the truth gets bent, and how they react when you start questioning them. Often, the truth comes out not in the words, but in their behavior when they feel cornered. In the end, people who constantly lie and exaggerate aren't just being dishonest with you, they're lying to themselves too. They're so wrapped up in creating a reality that doesn't exist that they lose touch with what's real. And if they can't be truthful with themselves, they definitely won't be truthful with you. Trust is the foundation of any meaningful relationship. Once that's eroded, it's hard to rebuild. So, take a step back. If someone's lies start to pile up, it might be time to ask yourself how much of your energy you want to invest in a relationship built on a shaky foundation. Number 11, being overly polite without sincerity. We've all been there. Someone's being just a little too nice. It's the kind of politeness that feels more like a mask than a genuine gesture. Every word they say, every smile they flash, it all seems a bit too much. And while on the surface, it seems like they're just being courteous, something doesn't sit right. The words are there, but the heart behind them? Not so much. It's almost like they're reading from a script, performing the role of nice person without actually being nice. And that's the thing about excessive politeness, it can be a dead giveaway that something's off. It's easy to confuse this kind of behavior with kindness, but the difference lies in how it makes you feel. When someone's polite because they actually care, it's warm. It's authentic. You can feel the sincerity, even in the smallest gestures. But when someone's politeness feels forced, it's like an act. It's surface level and never quite reaches the core. The pleasantries are there, but there's no substance behind them. It's the kind of politeness that's used to maintain distance, to keep things superficial. And that's exactly the problem. It's a barrier, not a bridge. You might catch yourself wondering, why are they being so nice? You haven't done anything to deserve it, and it's not like they've earned your trust yet. Maybe it's their way of keeping things pleasant, of never stepping on anyone's toes. But at some point, you'll notice the lack of depth in their words. It's like they're trying to manage the interaction, to keep things smooth and easy, but without ever letting you see the real them. It's as if they think that being overly polite is the best way to get along with people, but in reality, it just makes the relationship feel empty. And here's the kicker, this over-the-top politeness is often used to mask something else, avoidance. It's a way to keep things shallow, to keep the conversation on neutral ground, where no one has to get vulnerable or real. You might find that this person is quick to agree with whatever you say, never challenges you, and is always eager to please. But when you look closer, there's no real connection. They don't offer anything personal or insightful, and they don't seem interested in getting to know you on a deeper level. Sometimes, excessive politeness is a way to protect themselves. Maybe they don't want to offend you, or they're scared of conflict. But when politeness is used as a shield, it leaves little room for anything meaningful. True friendships, real relationships, are built on moments of honesty, even when they're uncomfortable. You can't be genuinely close to someone if all you ever do is tiptoe around the truth with overly polite niceties. So, what do you do when you notice someone being excessively polite without the sincerity behind it? First, recognize that it's a red flag. Overpoliteness can be a cover-up for a lack of authenticity. Pay attention to how you feel after interacting with them. If it feels like you've just had a surface-level exchange, that's exactly what it was. Real connections go beyond politeness. They're messy, raw, and full of real emotion. If someone's not willing to get beyond the pleasantries, maybe it's time to ask yourself if there's someone you truly want to invest in. At the end of the day, sincerity is what makes relationships meaningful. Politeness is nice, but it's the genuine, heartfelt moments that leave a lasting impact. If someone can't give you that, their politeness might just be a smokescreen to hide their true feelings, and that's something you don't need in your life. Number 12, quickly shifting loyalties. The classic move. 1 minute they're all in your corner, backing you up like a loyal ally, and the next, they're swaying with the crowd, hopping to the other side without even a second thought. It's like trying to hold onto water with your hands. Just when you think you've got a firm grip, it slips right through your fingers. Quick shifts in loyalty are a huge red flag that someone isn't being real with you, and it speaks volumes about their character, or lack thereof. Here's the thing, people who constantly shift loyalties don't really stand for anything. They don't have solid principles, and they certainly don't value long-term relationships. They're more interested in immediate benefits, and wherever they think the wind is blowing, that's where they'll plant themselves. It's not about what's right or wrong, but about what's easiest or most convenient for them at the moment. And that? Well, it's not just frustrating, it's downright exhausting. Imagine being in a situation where you're relying on someone to have your back, only to realize that, the moment things get tough, they're nowhere to be found. They've already switched camps, siding with whoever seems to have the upper hand. It's the kind of behavior that makes you question what loyalty even means. Does it only exist when it's easy? When it doesn't cost anything? Loyalty isn't a fair-weather companion. It's a commitment, not a convenience. And those who keep changing sides at the drop of a hat, they're not loyal. They're opportunistic. One of the most jarring aspects of this is the total lack of consistency. With these people, there's no real depth to their relationships. They're like chameleons, morphing and shifting, adjusting themselves to blend in wherever they can get the most attention, approval, or advantage. They'll act like your best friend one moment, and the next, they'll be praising someone else while completely ignoring you. It's disorienting. It leaves you questioning where you stand and whether they're ever really on your side. Now, let's bring in some Stoic wisdom. The Stoics believed in maintaining steadfastness and integrity, no matter what the world threw at you. They weren't about bending to the winds of popularity or chasing after fleeting opinions. Instead, they focused on what was within their control, their own thoughts and actions. If you're dealing with someone who keeps switching their loyalties, it's important to remember, you can't control them. But you can control how you react to it. You can choose to value relationships built on trust and consistency and avoid those that are fickle and unreliable. Stoicism also teaches us to recognize the nature of others. If someone keeps hopping sides, maybe they're just showing their true character. Maybe they're not capable of real loyalty or deep connections. Instead of feeling hurt or betrayed, use that as an opportunity to practice indifference. Don't let their inconsistency throw you off course. Let them shift as they will, but don't let it affect your path. Stay rooted in your principles and keep your focus on what truly matters, what's in your control. At the end of the day, loyalty is a rare and precious thing. It's not something you should expect to find in everyone you meet, and it's definitely not something to take for granted. If someone is quick to jump ship whenever things aren't perfect or convenient, don't waste your energy trying to figure them out. Recognize it for what it is, a sign of their character, and move on. You'll find far more peace in surrounding yourself with those who stay steady, even when the tides turn. Number 13, disappearing during tough times. There's something eye-opening about the way people behave when life gets tough. When the road gets bumpy, some people double down, offering support, showing up, or simply being there to weather the storm with you. But then, there's the other kind, the ones who vanish as soon as things get heavy. No phone calls. No messages. Just silence. It's like you've suddenly become invisible. And that's a huge red flag that someone might be putting on a show, but they're not really invested in you or your well-being. Think about it, friendships and relationships are built on shared experiences, the highs and the lows. So when someone disappears in the middle of a tough moment, it's not just disappointing, it's revealing. It shows that their connection with you isn't rooted in something real. It's convenient for them when things are easy, when life is smooth and you're both living your best lives. But as soon as there's a crack in the surface, they're out the door. It's like they're only in it for the good times, and when things get complicated, they don't have the time, energy, or inclination to stick around. The reason this happens is often tied to a lack of true commitment. Some people are only interested in being part of your life when you're on top of the world, looking shiny and successful. When you're vulnerable, when you need help, when things aren't going your way, that's when you really see who's truly there for you. It's easy to show up when the sun is shining. It's a whole different ball game when the storm clouds roll in. For others, it's fear. They're afraid of getting involved in your problems or being dragged down by your struggles. They might even tell themselves that they're protecting you by staying away, as if their absence is somehow a form of giving you space. But deep down, it's often about their own discomfort with vulnerability, or their inability to cope with difficult emotions. They'd rather bail than be faced with the hard stuff. And if you're left standing there alone, trying to figure things out, you can't help but feel that absence. It stings. Because you start to realize that they weren't ever really all in, they were just along for the ride. But here's the kicker, this kind of behavior doesn't just happen once. It's a pattern. If you look back, you'll start noticing that they're never around when things get real. Maybe they'll call when everything's fine, offering surface-level support. But when the hard times hit, they're gone, like a ghost in the wind. They'll find reasons, excuses, and justifications, but at the end of the day, their actions speak louder than any word they could say. So, what do you do with this? First, stop chasing after people who only show up when it's convenient for them. Real relationships are built on trust and mutual care, and those who disappear when you need them most are showing you exactly where they stand. It's not about punishing them or holding a grudge, but rather about protecting your own energy. You don't need people who are fair-weather friends, stick with those who will be there through the storm. Life's too short to spend your time holding onto relationships that don't stand the test of adversity. If you're left feeling abandoned in tough times, it's a signal. It's a signal that perhaps it's time to reassess your circle, prioritize those who are truly invested in you, and stop pouring your energy into people who can't be bothered when the going gets tough. Because, at the end of the day, that's when you need the real ones to show up. Thank you for watching. Recognizing fake behavior allows you to protect your peace and focus your energy on genuine connections. Stoic philosophy reminds us to observe without judgment and respond with wisdom, keeping our inner calm intact. If this video helped you spot the signs, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our latest insights. Share this with someone who could benefit from learning how to identify and navigate fake people. Remember, authenticity attracts authenticity. Stay true to yourself, stay mindful, and keep building your inner control. See you in the next video.